Hey, everybody, welcome to the Orange Crush podcast. It's the open date edition. And considering that there are so many questions surrounding Clemson's football program, the 1-3 start, all of the questions about Dabo Swinney, the leadership within the program, leadership in tough times, I decided to reach out to somebody that I think highly of, somebody that I think is a good leader, has been a good leader. I just call him Trey. Other people know him as Major Trey Kennedy. Trey, kind of introduce yourself and talk about your background, and then I'm going to throw something at you to kind of let you chew on it a minute.
Sure. Well, David and Grayson, thanks for having me on today. Big fan of the show and what you guys are doing here, and we'll see if we can make this one dynamic. I'm not a football coach. I coached for 2 years while I was in college at the high school level, Daniel High School and Walhalla High School. Daniel, where the NFL players walk out on the field and you look like a genius, and then Walhalla, where you have to work for every yard that you get. So that is my coaching experience. So I'm no longer a coaching expert by any means, never was. So Clemson grad back in 2008, served in the Marine Corps for almost 12 years. I did a dynamic career in the Marine Corps, lots of different jobs. I was telling Grayson earlier today that, and as a Marine officer, you almost have to become a jack of all trades and figure out a way to get good at everything. And because never know what's coming at you. Several tours in Afghanistan. I was on staff at Marine Corps OCS, Officer Candidate School, where I had myself and my drill instructors, and we screened new officer candidates coming in through the pipeline. I also served as a Marine Corps officer selection officer, where I was actually selecting guys and girls to go to OCS to try to make it through officer candidate school and then earn a commission as a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. Since then, I transitioned out of the Marine Corps. I live here in Anderson, South Carolina on beautiful Lake Hartwell. And family and I, we got 2 young boys, and my wife's actually a professor over in the business college at Clemson. So lots of ties to the Clemson family. But probably the big, the thing that I'm most proud of is being on the board of directors for the Clemson Corps. That is we'll call it our affinity group that is there to, what we say, keep the tradition alive. As you know, military history, heritage of Clemson University. And we're there to ensure that continues forward, not only taking care of the RTC and Marine officer candidates, but also student veterans. So that's a dime tour, David, of my background. Did I miss anything? Anything you want me to hit on there?
Well, yeah, I think probably your most important job, Grayson, you don't know this, I do. But whenever we have a flyover at Clemson University, whatever it is, it's Trey calling in the airstrike. It's Trey on the radio calling it in. Like, he's the one on the radios. I love that part of it. And I appreciate you coming on with us. Let me dive right into this. We all know Clemson's 1-3. It's not a good look out there. And in talking to a friend of mine who's an NFL scout, he said something that really got me to thinking yesterday. We've had a few conversations. He said that this is probably, I think the word that he used was dispirited, that he watched Clemson's players in pregame Saturday, and that, yes, they had lost the week before, but everything was still on the table. You can still run the table in the ACC, make an ACC championship game, still make a college football playoff, still get a chance to play for a national championship. And he said in pregame, in watching Dabo Swinney try to get them fired up down at the end zone, no emotion running down the hill. And then he said played listless and lethargic. And I said, what causes that? With everything still on the table, you need to come out and prove yourself to play that way. And he said, sometimes the message grows stale. Trey, chew on that one for a minute.
Yeah. So without just going through every single detail, one, we don't know all the details. We're not there at practice every day. I mean, that starts with the recruiting conversation that the coaches have with the players way back when they were, eligible for, to talk to the players or to the coaches, to the camps, all the way up to the conversations with the parents and the family, all the way into the program, and then what's to happen there. And then you got this dynamic of rev share and NIL. And then also, the day-to-day practice, right? as fans, we don't see any of that. So let me say, first of all, that nobody knows unless you're in the organization. And even within the organization, you still have your tunnel vision and sometimes can't see the big picture. But I will tell you this. I've seen units, Marine units that kind of have a lull to where, nobody is performing to what we would say is their capability. I think that fans are kind of lumping everything together and trying to place blame on one thing. And I think that, it's easy to do that. Only problem is it's probably not realistic. You could say, what's the main thing? And even still, it's probably not a total solution. This year, if you look at the team, no one is playing. And I would even say no one is coaching to their potential. You got some of the best coordinators in the nation that anybody would have hired before, Clemson hired them. And you've even had several defensive coordinators, 2 of them there, 3 offensive coordinators in the last, 5 or 6 years. You've got talent on the team, 100%. You've got players that a lot of teams would have loved to have when they were coming out of high school or even transferring in. So there's talent on the team. And like you said, are we more talented than Troy and Georgia Tech and Syracuse? And I would say we're more talented. Are we performing to that ceiling? No. And again, I've seen Marine units do this, right? So the first thing you got to look at is, well, what's the culture of the organization like? And you can't mandate culture. Your culture is grown from within. It's who you recruit. It's how you treat them on a daily basis, what you reward, what you set back in line, right? And I don't say punish there. It's correct, right? What you allow. Sometimes you can get so much of a good thing that it turns into a bad thing. It's like me with, eating that dessert, right? Dessert's a great thing, right? But too much of it, and then all of a sudden, I got problems, right? So I think the culture aspect of it, you got to look at that. Now, I want to go back to who you recruit, and I think that that's kind of something that fans have said recently. It's like, are we recruiting the right guys? And I completely understand what they're saying there. In the Marine Corps, we're known for not giving benefits. We're known, like, we're talking like the bonuses and all the extras, the tangibles. We give the bare minimum, right? In the Marine Corps, you're not going to see the Marine Corps just shelling out cash and too many scholarships and random things like that. Well, what that does is it recruits a certain type of person into the Marine Corps. So therefore, when they're on active duty, years later in a unit, they're all kind of similar, right? We also recruit the person that's not looking at the bare minimum, but instead is looking at the maximum, that alpha mentality, and I think while I was on active duty, that we had several iterations of physical fitness tests come out where the scoring had changed. Well, all the Marines that, were waiting on the new scoring systems to come out, they all wanted to know what the maximums were. I don't even know what the minimums were in the Marine Corps, and I'll bet you most of my Marines didn't either. They had that gear in them I want to get to the best level, right? That type of person sets the culture of the Marine Corps, and the leaders continue to evolve that culture even further. So going back and looking at this team, to answer your question, David, you got to look at the culture, right? You got to look at things that you're pulling into the actual staff, the actual the player roster, even the support staff, and see. Is there a certain personality that you're rewarding? Is there a certain positive thing that you're pulling and saying, hey, this is a great thing, and you're actually letting them get to their ceiling? But also, is there something negative in your culture that you are accidentally rewarding as well? And, and I've heard things like loyalty to certain players come up when they're not performing. And okay, well, all the players behind them are now going to get demotivated to say, I don't care how hard I work, I got to get to, I can never get to that level because of that loyalty. I'm not saying that's what's happening at Clemson. What I'm saying is I've seen it happen at Marine units to where you don't get the opportunity to go perform because there's something like loyalty in the way. So you got all these considerations of what could be the negative seed that would be planted. And I'll tell you one more thing is sometimes the negative seed was not planted at the beginning of the performance, but years prior. And it's just cultivated more and more and more and more and more. And finally, maybe because of an even level of talent or more even level of talent, the closing of that gap in talent, it's finally showing its ugly head. But I do know this, David. Dabo has, in years past, we've seen Dabo take a leadership perspective and do nearly the impossible. And I'm not saying impossible because I've seen that too, but it's nearly impossible. It's extremely hard to where you go back and look at your unit and look at how they're functioning, and you're able to say, I've got to alter some things to get the best out of them right now. Back when I was coaching high school football, David, I went to this like coaches clinic, right? It was back in, must have been 20 years ago almost. And Dabo spoke at this coaches clinic. And it was, I think it was right when he just got the job. And he was speaking to the room, and he said one thing that stuck with me forever, even my whole career in the Marine Corps. He said, if you're a 4'6" guy, I want you to be a 4'6" guy on the field. If you're a 4'4" guy, be a 4'4" guy on the field. But if you're a 4'8" guy, I need you just to be a 4'8" guy on the field. I don't need you to be something that you're not, right? Well, what that does mentally is it establishes a level of confidence in production to where you don't have to do something that you're not capable of. It almost relieves you of all this extra stress and therefore gets you to a higher level of performance. Well, if you go into it thinking that I'll never get to the level of performance that I'm expected to be at, that's demotivating. So that could be it. So we're talking culture, we're talking individual motivations, we're talking, how the team interacts with each other. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is confidence. I hear fans saying, oh, we need to go at them harder. We need to, bench them or make them sprint like Syracuse did, and I'm not sure that that's the answer. In fact, I kind of went into it the opposite. I think that this team needs an elevation of confidence. And I think the best illustration of that is, Grayson, if I asked you to walk a line like they paint in a parking lot, right? The lines that you park between, right? Well, the line is 4 inches wide or whatever. It's easy for you to walk that line, right? If I say just walk down that line, heel toe, whatever, okay? It's easy for you to do that. You could do that easily. But then if I raise that line up, painted it on top of a balance beam, raised it up about 2 feet above the ground and said, walk that line, instantly you're going to get slower. You're going to be more cautious. Your balance is going to be a little out of whack. And instantly it becomes harder. It's the same line, but your mental state starts assessing risk and failure and things like that, and it screws up your performance. Now, if I raise that line to 100 feet above the ground between two buildings or something like that, to the point where you're ready to give up before you start, right? So it's what can I do when it's game day to lower that line to the ground to increase performance to where I'm in that flow state and I'm moving like I should. All of those things, are a factor here. And I think that, there's no one easy solution. And I would say that there's a number of probably solutions here that could all work. But there are a lot of factors here that may be causing all of this. So it's not something that's going to be easily identifiable. But there's probably more than one way to skin the cat here.
Something that was really fascinating yesterday, and you kind of talk about that being elevated and that it's the same line, but mentally it may not be sort of the way you perceive it. And something Garrett Riley told us yesterday about this offense needing to play with more of a short-term memory and some of the stuff that has lingered, particularly in his quarterback, that has forced the issue a little bit. We've heard about practice. It's one thing where the offense is moving down the field. We've heard about in Coach Swinney's fall camp reports that this offense, everything seems connected, and you get on the field and it's a completely different product. What's maybe the goal when you got somebody that maybe mentally is having a little bit of a block, having a little bit of a hurdle that they have to overcome, and your level of expertise here, just what is that fix for a team that maybe is overthinking it a lot on the field, trying to play not to lose? There's already this weight of expectation heading into North Carolina. Teams 1-3 for the first time in over 2 decades. And so there's got to be a lot laying on the mental side of things that this team's going to have to overcome on top of just sort of the disappointment that they're having to burden.
Yeah, so the Marine Corps, we have the crawl, walk, run approach to learning. And I think that that's probably what's at play here. That would probably be a good solution. One of probably several. So what we do is anytime we teach something, we do the crawl phase, which is nice and slow. You're just trying to get to the end state, right? Of, all right, here's the end state. This is what you're trying to get at. The walk stage is when it's a little bit more simulated, but it's still a little slower to where you can gain that confidence and understand the metrics. And then the run stage, which is when you're flying, right? We Marines have a saying that the Marine Corps can make it throw in a grenade, mundane and boring. And that's kind of what it does, right? So take throwing a grenade. When you're taught to throw a grenade, first you start out not throwing anything. You're sitting there holding your hand and knowing where things are in your hand, and you're doing the motion. Some people throw it like a football. Some people throw it like a baseball initially. Some people, they don't know which way to whip their arm around just because they didn't grow up playing, competitive sports and things like that. But you're trying to get everybody up to that level. And then you go into where you have these things called blue bodies, and they're like simulated grenades. And you're learning how to throw that without the risk, and you're getting so confident. But you do it hundreds of times. I mean, just over and over, to where when you finally are throwing that first grenade, it's like no big deal to you. I don't care what kind of distractions or whatever could be coming in, or what kind of pressure could be coming in. It's all second nature to you, to where you could do it in your sleep. And that's when it's go time. You literally have a live grenade in your hand, and it's not a big deal to you, right? I think that would probably be the, a correction to what's happening here is, crawl, walk, run, rep it so many times that no matter what distractions are happening, fans being in the stands, the cameras are on, the lights are on, the pressure is on, you got a 2-minute kind of drill, anything like that. You're trying to get a first down and you hadn't gotten one yet. All of those things tend to go away when it's muscle memory. And I think that's the solution there, or a solution, at least probably one of the most likely solutions, to where you can fix those mental issues. If you're so confident in what you're doing, the mental part tends to kind of go away. You get so much positivity and determination and focus that you can throw all kinds of distractions and pressures and things like that, and they just bounce right off.
Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton, Scott, and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and 2-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton, Scott, and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
Hey, Trey, that's great insight. Now I want to ask you about this. And it kind of goes back to something that Nikki, we all know Nikki knows a lot about football, right? That she brought up the other day about fiery Dabo. And I'm actually going to write a column on it. And I go back to a 2010 game at UNC where Clemson was not very good offensively. And he came out and he said, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed by the product out on the field. I want to apologize to the fans. I want to apologize to the players. Obviously, I'm not coaching good enough, and I'm going to get this fixed, okay? There was a lot of motivation in that. And I heard the same thing after the bowl game that year. I'm embarrassed, and I'm going to get this fixed. And then he hires Chad Morris. And then after 2011, it was more of the same. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to get this fixed. We are not what we're going to be. We are not what I want us to be. This is all on me. This is my fault. It's going to get fixed. Hires Brent Venables. And it seems like he has taken a different tone these days. And it is more, I thought Monday was kind of more along the lines of well, hey, there's just something bigger at play here, and we'll understand in years. Like what? A Tuesday a week ago, it was more, hey, if you don't want me, I'll just quit. I'll go somewhere. Come on. I don't see that same fire. And it seems like he has become more, as a good friend of mine said, critical Dabo rather than motivating Dabo. What do you see?
Okay, so up front, different approach. I think it's because you're fighting a different enemy. After the West Virginia blowout, or before that, after the USF loss in the bowl game, you were fighting the enemy of scheme. And sure, the talent wasn't where it is today, anywhere close, but the enemy there was your scheme and getting the players to understand the scheme and effectively execute it. I think the enemy today is not scheme. I think the enemy today is right here, is mental. And that includes the coaches as well. We've seen these coaches scheme to a very high level at other schools. So something about the environment here is even affecting those coaches too. And I think Dabo's taking a different approach because he probably sees the same thing in that this is a different enemy. I can't go after this like I did right before I hired Brent Venables or before I hired Chad Morris. This is an enemy that's within the team. It's somehow grown from within the team and the coaching staff. And I can't just cut the head off and then the problem is gone. I've got to do something to address it to my current personnel group. So I think the battle is mental. Now, going with that, when you're in a mental battle, when you're in a battle of the mind, everything is a weapon, everything. And to illustrate that perfectly, okay, guys, when you smell burnt popcorn, it will ruin your day, right? Okay. And I'm telling you, it's just something that gets you, but also there's like smells that don't necessarily smell good, but you associate them with something really positive. Like the smell of, I said the lake a minute ago, that smell, it's almost like a fish smell that the lake has.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
I associate that with the best days of my life. It's not a pleasant smell. I'm not putting that in a Yankee Candle and burning it in my house, but I associate it with something positive because it means something really good to me. So the sense of smell in the Marine Corps, when we're teaching, here's what enemy flags look like. This are Taliban flags, and these are all the symbols. We'll crank burnt popcorn smell, or somebody, hey, go heat up some day old fish in a microwave and just get it cranking in there, right? And what that does is you're triggering the mind to where you don't have to logically think about something. Instead, it's automatic. So when you're out on the battlefield and things are crazy and you see that image, you don't even have to remember the image. Your mind will automatically associate with something negative. It's intuitive, right? So that's smell. There's other things like routines. Routines will get your mind turned off quick. Drive home from work every day, the same route. How many times do you get home and you have no recollection of how you got home, right? Change the route.
That's every day for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Change the route up one time, or have, something happen on the route that makes you kind of think a little bit. I promise you're going to be a heightened sense of awareness all the way home. It would be different if you just drove the same route. So little things like that. And I think that's what he's doing right now. He's trying to, change routine. I wouldn't be surprised if they had practice out at Jervey Meadows. You know what I mean? Just something to throw I'm going to change your mindset kind of thing at the players, to where you do something you don't normally do, or you start to crank in other senses into the equation that get people's minds turned back on, but also reassess what they're currently doing and then go back to the causes that I was talking about a minute ago. Again, everything is a weapon, and you can use the media. You can use what you say, so meaning what they hear. You can use the type of music that they play at practice. Lots of different things to start messing with that mind and getting those minds turned on and getting the players to the performance that they need.
I'm hearing they need to pump in some bluegrass at practice, right?
I'm telling you, right? If they walk out every day and whoever artist is playing that they listen to on a daily basis, and all of a sudden they come in and some kind of bluegrass band is on, "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack, I guarantee you they play different that day, or their minds are active a lot more that day. Guaranteed.
Some new music might have to be the thing. You mentioned sort of the senses being heightened. What was really fascinating to learn was everyone was heard on Monday, where Dabo Swinney talked about the team meeting that Clemson had, was sort of the honesty session where it felt like talking to Peter Woods, Colin Sadler said it was an emotional meeting. People were heard. There were tears shed. It was just one of those things where everyone got up and spoke their minds. And I think it's something you said earlier that you're kind of waiting for that breaking point of the team hits this lull, and all of a sudden there's that spark or that turning point. What can something like that do where people just start getting up and speaking their minds? There's just like nothing is off limits, and that kind of changes the tenor of how people kind of operate.
If people don't feel like they're an accepted member of the team or they have total responsibility, they'll turn off quickly. A perfect example is a leader that micromanages. You're supposed to be in charge of this one thing, but then you got this leader that micromanages you and tells you certain ways of doing things. Your motivation is going to fall fast, right? Completely lost as an employee, even though your performance standard is really high. The motivation factor is, well, I don't own this anyway. It's not my responsibility. I'm not held accountable for it, so I don't care about it. And what you do is when you open up the dialogue there, you create well, now he's listening to me and I've professed, here are the issues that I see. Now I'm going to be held accountable for correcting those issues, but also I better back it up with, I'm not doing those things myself, right? If I'm pointing the finger at other people or I'm saying this isn't right with the environment, I better be a contributor to the positive change in the environment. So being heard, being accepted, if you want to motivate a 18 to 22-year-old more than anything, give them a piece of responsibility and say, this is yours. If it's successful, it's because of you. If it fails, it's because of you. Right. And I'm not going to dictate how you should do this. This is on you. And you got a brilliant mind and you got the capability to make this thing a success. You start putting that on the players, I guarantee you their performance is going to go up because now they're going to have ownership.
This is fascinating. I probably could sit in your leadership course for hours and learn some things. I think that this has been fascinating. Grayson, thoughts on this? I mean, gosh, I feel like we could do a part 2 on this at some point.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
If
Love
Clemson
it.
starts 1-3 again, we'll have to bring Trey back.
Please don't let that happen again. Like, nobody likes that, right?
Maybe we do a leadership reversal where the Clemson's all of a sudden 6-4, and it's what happened, Trey? Let's dive into that. And then instead of the leadership, we just give you a headset when you start calling plays for this podcast.
So here's the cool thing about what we're experiencing right now. This isn't an issue that's probably going to keep going because of who Dabo is. Dabo is not good with, well, it's not working, but I'm just going to keep getting the check in the box and hopefully it'll work out. Hope isn't a course of action for Dabo. He's going to try to fix it, right? And you've seen him do staff changes. You've seen him do personnel changes. Some would say that, he's a little resistant on certain things, and that's because of a loyalty piece, which that's a whole nother leadership dynamic that we haven't talked about with the benefit of being loyal. But I think that what you have is a leader that's really good at figuring out what the problem is and then doing a severe course correction to get after that solution. And I would not be surprised if, we come out of the break here, the open week, we go to UNC, they're not a great team. Are they better than Syracuse? I don't know yet. We'll see. But they're not a great team. We go up there, we win that game, and then all of a sudden we get some confidence. We start rolling, and some of the things that he set in place this week and next week, all of a sudden, at the end of the year, we're somehow in the game of talking about bigger than just a bowl game, right? Things happen. It's a weird year with the ACC and all of college football. Who knows what could happen? So, we might be at the right before the South Carolina game talking completely different right now, and I think out of all the head coaches in the nation, you've got the right head coach to address this problem more than anyone else. And that's the confidence that I can have as a Clemson fan and wanting to support this program. You might see something like that, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise you, and I think it wouldn't surprise fans that they're going to enjoy this episode with Trey Kennedy.
So.
And guys, thank you as always. Trey, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Go Tigers. That's it. Go to ClemsonCore.com. Hey, support us on the military side. There you go. I'll put my plug in there. I don't have a logo on the screen. We'll have to donate to the Orange Crush podcast here. But
well, you know what? Tell us a little bit what's coming up for the Clemson Corps. I know, we got homecoming coming up in October, but what else is going on?
Oh, man, you got Military Appreciation Week coming up. We're well into the planning of that one. You're about to see some the official Military Appreciation Day T-shirt come out. The Tiger Sports Shop's going to be selling those. I think we're waiting on the batch to get out there, and those are good. We got the anniversary of the United States Army, the United States Marine Corps. Who else? United States Navy. We've got so many things to celebrate this year, and then next year, 250th anniversary of our nation. Lots of things coming up. And the Clemson Corps, we're getting more and more participants inside of the Clemson Corps, and it doesn't take a lot of work unless you just want to give a lot of work. That's fine. But we got so many people in there now that we're starting to do more and more things, and our support for the students on campus and the different military heritage aspects of campus is growing rapidly. So it's a wonderful thing, a wonderful time to be a part of the Clemson Corps, and we'd love to have you. You don't have to be an alumni. You don't have to be a Clemson person other than a fan maybe, and you don't even have to be a veteran or an active service member, but we'll take you for sure on either side. So it's a mix of everyone.
And there you have it there from Major Trey Kennedy. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We want to thank our sponsors, Newton Scott and Associates and Chick-fil-A, for continuing to power us through a really interesting 2025 season. Thank you guys all for watching. Go support Trey's stuff. God bless y'all. Have a good one.